I want to talk a bit before I get to a couple other topics about Food for Peace. Senator Hoeven and I, when we saw what was happening with Food for Peace at USAID and the State Department, we introduced legislation to transfer the authority to manage and operate Food for Peace to the Department of Agriculture. It was my understanding that both OMB and the Department of Agriculture, your department, responded to that idea favorably. And I'm anxious to have you tell me what it is that I and my colleagues ought to be doing to keep providing the commodities that we grow in the United States to people who are starving around the globe. And is this something you're still interested in acquiring?
Yes, and it's my understanding this program was started in Kansas. Is that right?
That is true.
Yes, the great state of Kansas, with about 150 farmers who came together and came up with the program. So, not surprisingly, I don't want to get ahead of my boss, and certainly Secretary Rubio and I have had very initial conversations about it.
I would add, I also understood that Secretary Rubio was willing or capable of sharing that responsibility or giving you that responsibility.
Yeah, we've had really great conversations about it. Obviously, we'll follow your lead, and if in fact this is the will of Congress, and I think we would be very willing to take that on if that was your direction, and would be excited to partner on that.
And the elimination of McGovern Dole, which we call in Kansas Dole McGovern, the elimination of that program is not an indication of the lack of interest in the Department of Agriculture making available American-grown commodities to people who are hungry around the globe. Is that true?
That's true. Thank you for that clarification. That's really important.
In the conversation that you've had about employees at USDA and the efforts to right-size, downsize, whatever the right words are, the department, let me highlight for you the importance of FSA and NRCS employees in county offices across the state of Kansas and around the country, I assume. And it was particularly troublesome when those on probation were those who were eliminated. We love the circumstance when a young man or woman out of college, returns home, goes to work for USDA in a county office. We do not have sufficient personnel in those county offices today, but we particularly love when there is somebody who's in their 20s, they come home and they raise a family in a small county of Kansas. And so would you pay particular attention to trying to make certain that county offices where farmers sit across the table from USDA employees and have a conversation about certainly about the farm programs and conservation programs takes place? That's different than ever trying to do that on a computer.
That's right.
So what would you tell me about your commitment to that?
Well, I think it's of paramount importance. And you think about what USDA is, who we are called to serve, the initial intention of the agency. Of course, in the founding of our country, we had the original 4 agencies: Treasury, Defense, the Attorney General, and Treasury, Defense, the Attorney General, and Justice, or War. And then just a few years later, a couple decades later, Interior was added. And right after that was agriculture. So this goes back to almost the founding of our country, and certainly we take that very, very, very seriously. In President Lincoln's best vision and his intention in founding this agency, it was to have that on-the-ground support for our farmers and our ranchers. So as President Trump is working to make America great again and restore prosperity across our country, my role in that is to ensure that rural America sees a level of prosperity that perhaps they haven't seen in our lifetimes. And there is a lot that goes into that formula, right? There's a lot we've got to do. We've got to get government off the back of our people. We've got to cut taxes. We've got to deregulate.
Can I ask you one more question?
But yes, the FSA remains at the very top of that list.
Thank you. And I do appreciate having employees return to the office to work.
Yes, that's an important part too.
As well.
Yes.
I've mentioned to you when we visited about the National Bioagro facility that's in Kansas. It's the replacement for Plum Island. We had this conversation when you were in my office before the confirmation. I want to just highlight, because I have 1 second left, but I want to highlight that facility, that institution, and ask you to either tell me or get me a report on NBAS operational status as of today.
I think it's a huge asset, and it's an important asset to the greater good of the country. And as we talked about in your office that day, a couple of months ago now, my commitment in fulfilling Congress's intent has not changed. And so I think, Senator, you and I can just make sure you need to send me reports if you're hearing anything different. But we are committed to ensuring that that facility moves forward in a way that best serves all of America and, frankly, the world. It's a really important asset.
Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you, Senator.